Hi everyone, this is Joe Rebelo, known to many of you on the internet and the martial arts world as Kenpojoe. In today's video, we're going to be discussing several important ingredients of not only American Kenpo, but Kenpo in general. And they are Master Key Basics, Master Key Moves, and Master Key Techniques. And we're going to take an example of each just to give you a small idea of what these various terms mean and how they apply in relationship to Kenpo. Again, the first thing we're going to do is take a Master Key Basic. Recently, I should mention, I was watching Paul Casey's wonderful Kenpo Karate videos on YouTube, and he had a wonderful video on Master Key Techniques, Master Key Moves, and Master Key Basics with several Kenpo luminaries. And I really wanted to elaborate on those three particular terms. In this case, he brought out the Encyclopedia Kenpo, and he brought out talking about a Master Key Basic, a Master Key Moves, and Master Key Techniques. So we really want to elaborate upon those three terms and give examples of each. So first of all, Master Key Basic. Now let's take that term, Master Key. It's a very important phrase. At one point they talked about maybe doing away with it. I think it's the exact opposite. It's a shining example of what exactly we're doing and how it's applied. So by all means, keep that term. Because what is a master key? Well, it's simply stated, it's a single key that can open any door in a particular structure. Whether it be a studio, a house, apartment, whatever it may be. But the key ingredient, that one key opens all the doors. So, what does that mean to us? Well, it means that a particular basic, and then move, and then technique, can be done in a multiple amount of scenarios against a multiple amount of attacks. That's the important key. So first of all, let's take a Master Key Basic, shall we? And that's going to be an embryonic basic, a simple basic move. So from here, I'm going to go right foot meets the left, going to attention stance. I'm going to step out to my meditating horse. I'm going to chamber to my training horse. Now I'm going to take my embryonic basic, and I'm going to move up a little bit closer. Hello. And I'm going to do a right hammering inward block. Again, a right hammering inward block. Now, again, the only thing I didn't say was front, because I'm facing to the front, and this is a right hammering inward block. My right hand, the method of execution is being used, the method of execution is hammering, the direction is inward, and the action is a block. Very important. Now, in and of itself, we're using that term block. You'll see how that can be rearranged a little bit later. But again, so let's take a Master Key Move. Now again, the basic itself was the block, but what's my lower body doing? What is my entire body doing during the course of this action? If I'm in a natural stance and I step back with my left foot into a right neutral bow and execute a right hammering inward block. Now notice, my rear hand right now is in a chamber position. What if it's not? What if a person attacks me and I bring my hand to a positional check, step back into my neutral bow, and then execute a right hammering inward block? What if it's not a positional check, but now I utilize a pinning check, step back into my neutral bow, bringing my right hand up as I do so with a right hammering inward block? Hey, what if I don't step back? What if instead I step forward and execute that right hammering inward block with my pinning check? What if I step forward and execute that right inward block with a positional check? What if I step forward and bring that right hand to a chamber position? Again, a Master Key Move is not just simply the embryonic block, but it's adding what the other hand's doing, what my feet are doing, what's my body doing. For instance, let's take a concept. So we have 7 major methods of execution. They are hammering, thrusting, snapping. Roundhousing, hooking. Slicing, clawing, and hammering. Now, people say, well, what about chopping? And as Ed Parker would say, blank is nothing more than blank. So chopping is nothing more than hammering done with an open hand. And that's going to become very important as we go on. So if I understand that basic concept of a master key movement being an embryonic basic, in this case a front right hammering inward block, and I understand that a master key move is combining my upper body with my lower body, moving back, moving forward. Again, that key ingredient that at the end of the action, if I were to take a still photograph, whether I stepped forward or back, I would still be in the same fundamental position. Now, if we understand that concept, now let's go into, well, let's elaborate on that master key move while we're talking about it. Because we just did a defensive action. Could we do an offensive motion off that? Sure we could. So again, if I'm here, and I step back and I bring my hand to the chamber, I do a hammering inward block. Well, the opposite of in is out. The opposite of a closed fist is an open hand. So can I do the aforementioned outward chop and strike with the knife edge of my hand to the side of my opponent's neck? We don't even say the side of the opponent's neck. We'll just say that hand out there, regardless of what the target is. I can just as easily pin, step back, hammering inward block, outward hand sword. I could just as easily utilize a positional check, blocking in, outward hand sword. Hey, if I step back, could I step forward? Sure. Hey, I'll tell you what, why don't I take that positional check and I'll make it a blocking action or checking motion, followed by that aforementioned outward hand sword. Once again, we see a simple move or series of moves, as the definition in the Encyclopedia Kenpo refers to, that are master key movements. So obviously it comes to mind, well, what are master key techniques? Well, again, based on the previous examples, let's see, shall we? Let's take our very first technique, delayed sword, used against the front right hand lapel grab. According to the Web of Knowledge, we start with grabs. Why? They're the least dangerous attack. The Web of Knowledge works from our least dangerous to most dangerous attack, which, by the way, is in the universal pattern. Grabs and tackles, pushes, punches, kicks, holds and hugs, locks and chokes, weapons, multiple attacks, or multiple attackers. And of course, it was three-dimensional. That line that would come up that would hold it in place would be combinations of the above 8 categories. So, we're here in a natural stance. Person executes a front right hand lapel grab. When someone grabs you, what do? Pin or re-grab. So I pin. I step back with my left foot as my right hand comes out, creating that motion of width. I execute a right hammering inward block as my left hand converts from a pinning check to a positional check, which allows me to knock my opponent's limb away. Now, again, from there I would execute a lead leg, right front snapping ball kick, and then drop with a right outward hand sword. Sometimes it was taught with a snapping action to retract it back to the positional check. Again, closed fist, chop, open hand. Hey. If we understand that concept, now, let's take a particular phrase that Mr. Parker said. A lot of people, I've heard lately, are talking about position recognition, which we're seeing here. Also category completion. No, Ed Parker didn't say that. No, but what he did say is for every move, theory, concept, principle, or definition, there is an opposite and a reverse. So if I block inward with this action and kick and then out with hand sword and bring the hand back, that's the reverse motion. From closed fist to open hand, and then in the reverse motion, which means moving back the exact same way it went forward, now with an open hand. If we understand that, let's take another technique for yellow belt. And we talked about moving forward and as opposed to moving back. Well, we have a technique called mace of aggression. It's against the front, two-hand, lapel grab, pulling in. Well, when the person grabs me, you know I'm a white belt beginner. So the minute he grabs me, I go, aha, I've got delayed sword. So I pin their hands, I bring my hand up, and I'm going to step back. But guess what? Oops! He pulled me forward. Now, that defensive motion, that front, right, hammering inward block now becomes a right, front first, right, raking back knuckle. Now again, I hit with my hammer fist and then I take my four knuckles across the back of my hand and I rake it across the nose diagonally. Remember, Kenpo law, the body doesn't work on diagonals. So if I can strike the person on that angle, I'm also going to be compounding that into a buckling action. In a universal pattern, we see that, whoops, it moved, hello, that diamond shape that we see in the center. In recent times, I've seen certain people add now a square onto a universal pattern to show that particular shape, and that's fine. I watched some people take the universal pattern, turn it sideways. I saw one gentleman wearing it on a patch. It was like, you know, it isn't quite correct, but it's not wrong. I mean, it's wrong as far as the universal pattern, the inherent shapes that we teach within it, but you can turn it sideways to teach you other lessons as well. But others simply said, no, we'll just add a square onto it. And I've seen it in different sizes on the universal pattern. Fine. But the key ingredient here, we're not doing a square. We're doing a diamond, a diagonal action. But guess what? We couldn't step back, so we went forward. Is it still not a master key move? Of course, in the technique, we do this and we introduce you to a different type of elbows. But if I did this, could I not chop from that technique? Of course I could. Why? Position recognition. I recognize where I am, and I know where I can go. Again, Mr. Parker, when he was demonstrating the rearrangement factor, would talk about 1, 2, 3, 4 in reverse hammer fist. And he would say that it would be P, A, I, N, which would put you in pain. And of course, once you were in pain, you would be H, U, R, T, hurt. Did I go off tangent a little bit? That's okay. All right, so if we understand this concept, again, moving forward is a moving back, closed fist, showing how we can graft into other techniques off that, and a shining example to the rearrangement factor. Let's pick another technique that utilizes the same master key move. That would be 5 swords. Orange belt technique, used, I believe it's number 9 in the 24th technique curriculum, and it's against the front right roundhouse punch. So again, I step in, hey, now my backhand is closed and my front hand is open. And I asked Mr. Parker specifically why he did it that way and liked doing it that way. It's not to say he didn't do it other ways, but I'm saying why he liked it. And the phrase he used was greater concentration of mass. Well, the opposite of in is out. Now my backhand is closed, and now my front hand is open as I'm doing that inward action. Remember, chopping is nothing more than hammering with an open hand. And then I go into my outward hand sword. Of course, I follow up with my heel palm and my drop your shoulder, bury him with that uppercut, pull his head out of the way, and chop him in the back of the head. We'll talk more about that at another time. But here's the basic idea. Here is, once again, a master key move. Which, of course, if that is true and it's in that, then that, by all means, should be a master key technique. Aha! So, we took a master key basic, we took a master key move, we showed you how to apply it retreating and moving forward, we showed you about opposites and reverses and going from this hand to this hand, combining the two as well, and again, outward as opposed to inward and outward with inward. And then we explained how these various techniques in that particular order teach you that particular understanding of a master key basic, move, and technique. Well, I hope I was of some service, and I hope I was of some assistance to you, and I hope in some small way, I've answered a couple of your questions. Now you've got to go back and say, okay, what's the opposite of in, out, what's the opposite of open, close, whatever. And you go through this series, and you too will find many of the master key basics, moves, and master key techniques taught in Kenpo. And people say, well, why do you say Ed Parker's American Kenpo? Because, you know what? You want to find some more answers in master keys? In my humble opinion, IMHO, look at the Tracy system. Look at the certain techniques they do. And look where you can find that category completion, those master keys that they do that maybe are no longer done in Mr. Parker's system. Maybe they'll give you greater insights into Kenpo as a whole. I always say Kenpo, the multifaceted diamond. You know, there's all these different facets and all these different styles of Kenpo. We're more alike than we are different. By looking at our similarities, we appreciate them all the more. Well, there you have it. This is Joe Rebelo, known to many of you on the internet and martial arts world as Kenpojoe. If you enjoyed this video, if you're watching on YouTube, hit like. Click the bell for notifications. Subscribe. If you're not, well, enjoy the video. And look for me on YouTube and do all the above. Thank you very much for your time, your patience, and your effort. And until next time, keep training. Party, party, party.